Volker.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Yeah, a little different ambience. We did it. Right, we did it. We did it.
Yeah, at last.
At last. It took some time.
Yeah, it took some time to prepare the right cartridge for the tone arm. What we wanted was to have the exact cartridge matching the exact tone arm in mass and moving mass.
So that means in our case we did it 2 times, right?
3 times.
Three times?
Yeah, 3 times.
Right.
Yeah.
So that
Remember, one we checked at our showroom and one we checked here, and we were not really happy with it.
Yeah, you especially. I was. You weren't.
You have to listen to it, not me.
Yeah. Now we found a perfect solution, but this is not a cartridge I can go to and buy online or in a shop, right?
No. It's a really custom made. It's made for me and then for you, and it's a cartridge matching this tone arm. So
Is also for the length of the tone arm, or in a way, because we have this.
if you have a longer tone arm, you have more mass. So it's also matching the mass of the tone arm. That's an important thing. So the compliance must be exact, and the mass of the cartridge.
In today's video, we talk about mostly about the technical aspects. Of course, I will dig now into my mono experience, which will be covered in a different video. But for me, it was very, very interesting, and I learned in the 90s, 2000s, nobody in the business or customers came to you and talked about mono, right?
No, not really, because I remember when the thing started in the mid-60s or early 60s, stereo was that thing. I mean, everybody was, stereo? And even if you looked at records and you see the sign mono, it's a waste of time. In fact, what we have learned today, me too, it's not true. I think mono with the right equipment, with the right cartridge, can be very, very delightful.
But you also, this is your new Aerolit turntable, but you, from the beginning, without thinking so much about mono, you offered it with the opportunity to put several tone arms, in this case 2.
Yes.
But not especially for mono, right? Why 2 tone arms usually?
I think it's a commercial thing, to be honest. For myself, we put the mono thing, the idea, away. For myself, I would be happy with 1 tone arm and this 1 cartridge. Maybe you have a detachable hatcher, maybe with a second hatcher with a second tone cartridge. But in fact, for me, it's 1 tone arm will do it. If the tone arm is good, fine. But there are many people out there who like to have another tone arm on the turntable, to adjust the tone arm and to have a different cartridge.
And play a little, right?
Yes. Yes.
But you also offer...
That's one thing with this play. Yes, it's fine. But I think finally you should listen at your place and listen to music, and not playing around all the time. I mean, it's
something tiring and not always the best thing to do. But you, from the very beginning, you offered 2 lengths of tone arms due to different listening experience
and different cartridges. I mean, you have what is the basic with a longer tone arm. Normally, you have more mass, and the cartridge should be handle this extra mass. So if you put a cartridge into the long tone arm with a high mass, and the compliance in the mass of the cartridge is not okay, it's not delightful, it's not good.
Now that you also made your mono experiences, does a second tone arm, under the aspect of people who might have mono records, become more sensible, makes more sense? Because there is a different aspect now also for you too that you can recommend wholeheartedly. If you listen to original mono pressings, try this. Use the second option for the tone arm for mono.
Yes, I agree. I mean, what we have learned from today and the last days in our showroom, myself, I have to say that's a good thing to have two tone arms, one for mono and one for stereo. Because what we listen to 2-3 records, and it's a lot of difference between a stereo cartridge to a mono cartridge on a mono record.
Yes.
And also it's a lot of difference on a stereo record, mono cartridge and stereo cartridge.
And this I will cover in a different video because I really want to go deeper in it, but that was fascinating and really, really surprising. So, if you have a customer nowadays and you ask him, hey, you have monos, and he said, yeah, I have, then you would say, don't go 2 times stereo, 1 mono.
That depends on the customer, I have to say. If the customer is not interested in mono,
okay,
that makes no sense to discuss mono and stereo.
Of course.
But if the customer is interested in mono records, because he wants to have originals, then it makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense to have a second tone arm with a mono cartridge. Because what we have listened to is that the tonal balance of a mono record
totally different ballgame.
Yes, and with a mono card is totally different.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, it's,
that was a surprise to you too? Did you expect that, or was that a surprise?
In some way I expected it, but it was a surprise also. For me, I have,
the magnitude of it.
Yeah, I have learned a lot of this playing around with the mono cartridge.
Yeah, that's
it was out of, I have to say, to be honest, it was a little bit out of view, for me, because I'm normally only in the stereo business. I mean, in stereo business is the wrong word, but there's not a lot of questions about mono. So I said, okay, this mono is there, and it's good to have it because you have originals and there's just so many things which are good on mono. But I haven't looked into it really carefully.
Because the market up until now also plays a role, right?
Yeah.
And that might change. But another interesting aspect are the tone arms. It was, for you, it was totally clear that we use the shorter tone arm for the stereo and the longer tone arm for the mono.
Yes, it's a little bit of old school. I mean, on the studio days when they have mono, most tone arms have a much more mass and have a longer tone arm tube, because everybody knows, I think, out there that if you have a longer tone arm tube, the angle of the head shell is different. Yeah. I mean, if you see the figures, distortion, everything, longer tone arm is more to a tangential tone arm, because
so at the end, if possible, it would be
yes. But it's
in the realm of infinity.
But it's but there are other aspects. I have to say, it's not only the length and the angle. There are other effects on a longer tone arm. It's a different mass, and so a longer tone arm must not be the better choice.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Understand. Yeah, now my journey begins. The mono experience begins here now. One question, my last question, if you have something to say it. How about your mono journey? Can you imagine that you by yourself now think about adding a mono cartridge to your personal system?
Yes, definitely. I mean, what I've learned, and I'm concentrating on that again. I mean, it's an interesting thing, and it starts now. Again,
and this is the beauty of this hobby, right?
Yes.
There's always something new, and if it comes from the 60s, but nowadays it's new.
Yeah.
Maybe just for those who watch this video and are not so familiar with the difference of stereo and mono when it comes to the cartridge, can you explain the main difference between a stereo needle and a mono needle?
The shape and the diameter is totally different. I mean, in this micro groove, it makes a lot of difference.
So the stereo is smaller, much more narrow.
Yeah, much more finer.
Yeah.
Than
and the mono is wider.
Yes.
And so the contact of the needle is quite different then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the cut was different at that time. In the mono times, we had two cuts from the 50s and the 60s.
So they changed that. Do you know? Maybe you know. Maybe you don't. Do they change the mono cuts also because the new stereo is coming?
No.
Okay.
I think it has to do something with a cutting process.
Okay.
I think they noticed that a smaller stylus has advantages to give more information.
That's the reason. And the needle I have here is for the later
50s to latest monos in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was an impressive start. Of course, it was just a start. Volker, thank you so much that you took all the time.
You started me again looking at
this is a new thing, right?
Yeah.
Finally, I can give you an input to get deeper into those things.
Yes.
Because I can also imagine that, or maybe I'm totally wrong, the impact of creating hi-fi changes a little bit, or is that too much to say? Would you optimize from today's standard to mono, or would that also be a possibility to change the whole design of future components?
I don't think you have. I think it's too much. I think you should concentrate on stereo and on mono, and think it's two separate lines.
Yeah.
And I think that mono is good for cuts in the past. And even if you have a mono record now, I'm pretty sure that's not made for a mono stylus. I think it's made. We have checked that.
Yeah, of course, because 99% of the people have a stereo cartridge, and you cannot optimize.
No.
You can just would not make sense.
So you have to check by yourself if you use the mono cartridge on a modern
new rack,
mono cut, or a stereo cartridge on a mono cut. Yeah. I think what's definitely, I will check that, but I think that all the new pressings, mono pressings, have a stereo cut. I mean the groove.
Yeah, the groove. Yeah. I'm quite sure too. Yeah. Everything else wouldn't make much sense.
No. So I think you stay with a mono cartridge for the records you had in the 60s and 50s. Yeah. I think that's, if you listen to this kind of records, I mean in this age, I think it's important to have a mono cartridge. Very important. Yeah. From what I learned in the last
surprisingly important.
Yeah. It's obvious. It's makes a lot of difference. Yeah. It's a absolutely different tonal balance.
The balance.
I think for me it's always the balance which music, interesting. I mean, I don't listen to high frequencies, mid frequencies. It must come together.
At the end.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And with a mono cartridge on a mono record, and at this time, it's just perfect.
Yeah, I agree. And the needle isn't burnt in, hasn't plugged in.
Yeah.
So things will happen there.
So remember, it's the same thing with the stereo. We just set it up again because after this playing in,
that was also quite interesting.
The VTA was we have to adjust the VTA definitely.
And so that you can see that a lot of things happened during this playing in phase. That you really and it was significantly how much you had to readjust. Significantly. Volker, let the journey begin. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. See you on the next one. Now I stand up and turn off the camera because this is not a professional studio.
No.